Hoodoo, the Akan term Undu, meaning medicine from roots, trees, plant life. Undu, to become heavy with the spirit through spirit possession, spirit communication, divination. Cast, the Akan term Guasi, to project, to throw, release. Cast, to form into a mold, to solidify. Hoodoo cast, to project our sacred mold of Akan ancestral religion in North America, the solidification of our identity, our ritual culture of medicine for healing and defense, our ritual culture of spirit communication for knowledge and application. Hoodoo cast, for the preservation of our people and the eradication of our enemies.
Yechimo, that means greetings to all Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut people, African black people. We are back once again for episode 5 of Hoodoo Cast, podcast for authentic Hoodoo, Akan ancestral religion in North America. I'm Oduyefo, Kwesi Radnehambata, Akan. This is a special episode, a solo episode, and of course typically we have interviews. So you saw the first 4 episodes, we had interviews. Periodically, every few episodes we'll do a single or a solo episode to go over some language, linguistics, cosmology, ritual concerns and so forth in the Hoodoo tradition. So this is one of those special single episodes. So we're going to focus on linguistics in association with cosmology and ritual practice. Now, you see the document that we're going to post a couple of images on the screen. This document you will be able to access via our website, our Hoodoo Cast page on our website. All the documents that we put forward in the different episodes, you'll have access to those documents. All of the different documents or images that we show, we will post them on the Hoodoo Cast page on our website, so you have access to them at any time. We also have our Patreon community, and you'll have access there as well. So the first image on the screen you'll see says Odu and Undu, singular and plural in the Akan language. And of course, in our book, Hoodoo People, we are the first to prove that the term Undu, the Akan term Undu, specifically from the Akwamu Akan dialect, the term Undu meaning medicine from roots, trees, and plant life. Undu also means to become heavy with the spirit through spirit possession and spirit communication. Undu also means to feel a presentiment or foreboding, what is unfolding in the spirit realm, and you can see that clairvoyantly and feel it clairaudiently and so forth, so that you can, through the process of divination, assist yourself or a querent in their spiritual and ritual recalibration. Undu also means to reach or arrive at your proper and complete destination. So we're the first to show that Undu, medicine from roots, trees, and plant life, Undu to become heavy with the spirit, Undu to feel a presentiment of foreboding and so forth. That is the origin of the term Hoodoo in North America. So we show here that Odu, the root of course is do, singular Odu, plural Undu, specifically in the Akwamu Akan dialect, Undu. In comparison to the Asante Akan dialect, that term is Nduru, but in the Akwamu Akan dialect, Undu is the plural for medicine, feeling presentiment, foreboding and so forth, heaviness and so forth. That Undu is the origin of the term Hoodoo. We have the singular and plural terms. Now, the reason why that's important is because there are 4 classes of ritual practitioner that we want to discuss. They are listed here in this document. So you see the Oduyefo, the Odunsinfo, the Odumafo, and the Odutofo. Now, plural, that is Oduyefo, Odunsinfo, Odumafo, Odutofo. Why is that important? These 4 classes of ritual practitioner in the Akan culture. If you look at this dictionary, these are entries from a dictionary, the Asante Fanti Dictionary. They began to compile this dictionary in the mid so-called 1800s, 1840s, and 1850s in the region of what is today Ghana. Now, they're sitting with our people in the so-called 1840s and 1850s, and some of these people are elders and eldresses, Odunsinfo. That means these people who are elders and eldresses then were born in the late so-called 1700s. If they were 70 years old, they were born in, the 1780s. If they were 80 years old, they were born in the 1770s. And the reason why they understand the language and the culture and the ritual practices and so forth is because they learn from their parents and they learn from their grandparents. So their grandparents would have been born in the mid-1700s, 1750s and so forth. Their grandparents would have been born in the early so-called 1700s. So the information that's being provided for this dictionary to be compiled by these elders who are sitting in the forest belt in Ghana in the mid-1800s, 1840s, and 1850s, who were born in the late 1700s, these people, some of these people were contemporary and related to our people who were forced into North America during the so-called 1700s. We talked about in the previous episode, in episode 3, we were talking about the South Carolina Gazette and certain entries from the late 1700s when they brought Africans, quote unquote, from the Gold Coast, and they were selling them and they were trading them and so forth, and they would list the names of the Afuraitkaitnut people, and you would see names like Kojo and Kwame and Kwabena and Abena and Ama and Afua and Kwesi and Akosua and so forth. And of course these are Akan, Akradin, or soul names. And we did that episode, we were talking about how the soul name is dealing with the divinity that governs your Okra, your soul, your divine consciousness and so forth. That is part of the ritual tradition and the Hoodoo pantheon, the pantheon of deities that govern the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that govern the 7-day week. They govern all natural cycles in creation. We are named after those deities, and our day names or soul names reflect that. So Kwesi, Kwame, Kwajo, Ajua, Kofi, Afua, Kwame, Ama, and so forth. These names are reflective of the divinity that governs the person's head and one of the solar, lunar, or planetary bodies that regulates all natural cycles on Earth and in creation. So that is critical to the Hoodoo tradition. So when you see these people in the South Carolina Gazette, these are Akan people with Akan names and so forth. Some of these people who were forced into North America in the late 1700s, they were contemporaries and even cousins or relatives or, villagers and so forth, living in the same communities with the people who were sitting down compiling this dictionary. So what is the significance of that? That means that those who were considered, as you see on the screen, Oduyefo, plural Oduyefo, Odumafo, Odunsinfo, Odutofo, when they were forced into North America, they continued their ritual practices. Those who were Oduyefo, root workers, they continued to be Oduyefo and called themselves Oduyefo. Later, Hoodoo-yefo. Those who were Odunsinfo, root doctors, they continued their practice. If they were sick or somebody on the plantation was sick or in their compound was sick and of course the so-called slave master couldn't heal them, they would say, we need to go and get the undu. We need to go and get the medicine to heal you. They were Odunsinfo, a root doctor. When someone wanted to do divination to find out what's the best time to escape and kill the so-called slave master and his wife and children and staff and escape the plantations and so forth, the Odumafo, the diviner, would engage that process. If they wanted to poison the so-called slave master while he was eating or sleeping and so forth, the Odutofo would engage that process. So these people who are Oduyefo, Odumafo, Odunsinfo, Odutofo, when they were living on the continent, when they were sold into enslavement, they continued to call themselves Oduyefo, Odumafo, Odunsinfo, Odutofo. Of course, the plural Undu, which is the root of each one of these names, came to be pronounced Hoodoo in North America. That means that there were Hoodoo people calling themselves Hoodoo people in North America. Now, let's look at these titles. The suffix that you see, fo, means a group of people in the Akan language. So, for example, Akan fo means Akan people. Akani means an Akan individual. Asante-fo means the Asante people, fo, or folks. Asante-ni means an Asante individual. Akwamu-fo means the Akwamu people. Akwamu-ni means an Akwamu individual. Now, when you have ritual practitioners, sometimes that fo is utilized to designate that that person is part of that group. So, for example, Odunsinfo means one of the group of people, fo, who engages the Odu or Ndu-sin process. Oduyefo, or plural Ndu-yefo, one of the group of people, fo, who engages the Ndu-ye process. So that's what we're looking at. So let's look at these definitions of who these ritual practitioners are, who these different Hoodoo people are. Oduyefo, ye means to work or to do. So Udu-ye means to work. Ye, the Ndu, the medicine, but also Ndu also means to feel a presentiment of foreboding. It also means to become heavy with the spirit. So when you work the Ndu, work the medicine, then you become heavy because the spirits come down, they alight upon you, you become heavy. You start feeling that heaviness and so forth. Spirit possession takes place. The spirit begins to speak through you. So you are Oduyefo, that is a root worker. Ye means to work or to do. So that's translated in English as the root worker, Oduyefo. Odunsinfo is the root doctor. Nsin means a fragment or a piece, and Ndu is the plant life, animal life, mineral life, the medicine and so forth. Odunsinfo, when you see it's translated as a physician or herbalist and so forth, that is the root doctor. You go to the Odunsinfo or Odunsini, singular, Odunsinfo, plural. You go to the Odunsinfo for medicine if you're sick, you're ill, but they can also communicate with the spirits of plant life and mineral life and so forth to make the medicine the most effective. So the Oduyefo is a conjurer, one who's a root worker but brings the spirits down. You become heavy with the spirit and so forth. Odunsinfo is a root doctor. Now, it's very interesting with regard to the Odunsinfo because it has to do with Akan cosmology. There's a sacred tree in Akan culture called the Odum tree. Odum means great and large, and it's one of the largest, most powerful trees and so forth. Odum also means pillar, but this particular tree is called the Odum tree. It is an abode of abosom, of deities, goddesses and gods and so forth, divinities. It's also the abode of ancestral spirits. So much so that you cannot just go and cut down an Odum tree. You have to pour libation, you have to give offerings, you have to give ritual prayers and ask permission to cut down that tree because it is the sanctuary of abosom, of divinities. If you go ahead and cut it anyway, you end up dying. So we have individuals who, even to this day, if they seek to do anything to an Odum tree, they know that they're cutting into the body, the shrine of an actual divinity, and a great calamity will come upon them if they do not do what they need to do ritually. You also find that the bark of the Odum tree is used in trials of ordeal. If someone is lying about something or misrepresenting something with regard to ritual practice and so forth, they will use the bark of the Odum tree, which is poisonous, and they go through a trial. If you're telling the truth, this poisonous bark will not cause you to die if you consume the tea that it's placed in and so forth, because the abosom will protect you. But if you're standing before this community and you're lying to the community and we give you this test, okay, we'll drink this poison. If you're telling the truth, the abosom will not allow you to die. If you're lying, you're going to die. Now, drink it. And the people who are lying, they're not going to drink the potion because they know they're going to die. And they're proven to be criminals and so forth. So the Odum tree is sacred, used in trials by ordeal. Also because of its, power as a shrine of a divinity, as well as ancestral spirits. You will find that the ritual cosmology and cosmological story with regard to the Odum tree, they talk about at the beginning of creation in Akan culture, when all of the trees were receiving their specific names, The Odum tree, the big powerful Odum tree, said, why don't you include Odum as part of your name since you're, smaller trees and so forth. The other trees said, no, we're not going to include Odum as part of our name. We're just going to, have our own names. A little while later, the various trees began to be cut down and used for firewood and for building and for furniture and so forth. But then they looked at the Odum tree and it was so powerful that it was never cut down. And in fact, it was reverenced because people saw it as a shrine of Abosom. And then the smaller trees said, wow, we do need to include the Odum tree's name as part of our name and so forth. So when you look at the etymology of the term Odunsin, the term sin means fragment or piece, and then Odum, it means medicine and so forth, but it's the Odum medicine within the Odum, within the great tree, Odunsin and so forth. And this is why you have the term for plant life in general, Odua or Edua or Undua plural. The Undu medicine comes from the Undua, the plant life, but the great big tree that reaches up into the heavens and so forth, that is the great Odum, and the other plants or trees and so forth are like children of the Odum. They're the Udua or Undua, sometimes pronounced Undria and so forth with the nasal, but you have the Undu medicine from the Undua, the plant life, and that great tree is the Odum tree. All of that is cosmologically connected. So when they talk about the Odunsini individual, sin means a fragment or a piece. They take a piece from the Odum, from the tree, from the plant life, and they work with the pieces or the herbs or the sticks or the twigs or the bark or different pieces or fragments seen of the Odum or Undum of the plant life. So the Odunsinfo, that's where that cosmology comes from. Then you have the Odumafo. Ma means to give, as in giving or granting. Ma also means full, filled, fully expansive, and so forth. The Odumafo is the one who gives Ma, the Undu, the medicine, but also the presentiment or foreboding, the capacity to see into the spirit realm, to see what's unfolding, what Abosom or Nsamanfo deities or ancestral spirits are governing certain situations, so you can align your thoughts, intentions, and actions with the forces in nature, with divine order, so you can overcome specific obstacles or circumvent certain things or restore balance to yourself. So the Odumafo is the one who gives Ma, the medicine Undu, but in this context, medicine in the context of divination, divining for the individual, a divine. And that expansiveness, you're expanded, you're filled, you're complete, you're in harmony with order. Ma meaning expansive, filled, complete, and all of that. And then you have the Odutofo, plural Undu-tofo. The Akan term ta means to kill, to injure, to inflict, and then of course the Undu is the medicine. So the Odutofo is one of the individuals fo who engages with the killing ta Undu medicine. That's why they say the poisoner, the one who uses poison. So, and of course we use poison to poison the so-called slave master, family, staff, so we could kill them, escape from the plantations and other forms of enslavement, and become independent. So now you have these 4 different ritual practitioners, 4 different groups of people who were forced into North America. They were called Oduyefo, Odumafo, Odutofo, Odunsinfo when they were on the continent, and they continued to call themselves the Undu people as they arrived here. Oduyefo, which is really Hoodoo-yefo, Hoodoo-mafo, Hoodoo-sinfo, Hoodoo-tofo. So when you have individuals talking about hoodoo, talking about what hoodoo is and what it isn't, when they say hoodoo has no deities, there's no pantheon of deities, or hoodoo is an amalgamation of different traditions, or hoodoo is not a religion and so forth, these individuals do not know what they're talking about. They don't know the Akan foundation of the hoodoo tradition. They don't know that there are specific ritual practitioners who are called hoodoo people. Hoodoo-yefo, Hoodoo-mafo, Hoodoo-sinfo, Hoodoo-tofo, and so forth. So that's key with regard to cosmology. Now we want to show how they operate in a cyclical fashion cosmologically as well. So the second image we want to put on the screen, and this is, we're revisiting what we talked about in episode 3. The Okrakonmuade, the soul Okrakonmuade washing ritual. We talked about this ritual process where we spiritually cleanse the head. The head, of course, is the shrine for the divinity that governs your head, that is your spiritual head. In Akan, that is called the Okra for males, Okra or Okrawa for females, the soul, the divine consciousness, the divinity that's installed in your head region. It's a male divinity if you're males, female divinity if you're female, and so forth. Of course, this applies to Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut, African black people only. No non-black person has a divinity governing their head. They cannot possess the divinities, communicate with the forces in nature, never have been, never will be able to. So, when you look at this symbol on the screen, we're showing once again the soul washer's disc. Sometimes they wear a pendant in our Khan tradition. The individuals who are considered and designated to be the soul washers for the sovereign, they engage the ritual process where they cleanse the head of the Ohini, the king, or Ohima, the queen mother. They wear these discs that represent the Okra, the soul. The disc is called the Okrakonmuade, meaning the soul washer's disc, or the soul implement that's around the neck of the individual and so forth. But the symbolism is what is important. You see the circular structure and an equilateral cross. Now, that is representative of the soul. When you look at the brain, it's a cross. You have the two hemispheres of the cerebrum, the right and left hemispheres of the cerebral cortex, and then you have the two hemispheres of the cerebellum on the bottom and so forth. So that four-tiered structure is a quote-unquote equilateral cross. It represents that same structure of the soul, divine consciousness that dwells in the head region. Now, when you look at the graphic representation we have under that, many people see this graphic representation and it is very similar to the Bakongo, Dikinga, Diakongo and so forth, the Bakongo cosmogram, the 4 positions of the sun that regulate cycles in life and so forth. Well, in the Akan tradition, when you look at the symbol of the Okra, as well as the Sun, the spirit within that Okra symbolism and so forth, you see that we have the same structure. This is why we show these 2 different representations of the Okra soul washer's disc and so forth. You'll actually see the symbol of the Sun, which is the diagonal cross and so forth. In one of them you have the circles in the form of a great circle in the middle and the 4 circles in the northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest and so forth. That is the Sun symbol, the symbol of the spirit. And then the equilateral cross is the soul or divine consciousness. It's a fusion of the 2. And then you see the other golden disc. You will see the union of the equilateral triangle, as well as in the northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. That's actually the Sun symbol. So it's showing that the cross symbol or the soul or the divine consciousness is governing the spirit, the Sun. The term Sun means the spirit body. So just like you have a physical body and you have a smaller body in the brain, in the head region, that regulates the entire body and everything that should take place in the body, that's the smaller body regulating the whole body. You also have a spirit body, which we call Sun. When someone transitions, their spirit leaves the body. Their spirit operating, you can see the spirit of your grandmother, the spirit of your grandfather. The grandmother can communicate with you and send her energy to you. The grandfather can communicate with you and send his energy to you and so forth. It's very critical because she is still a female. Feminine energy originates in the spirit realm and manifests in the physical realm. Masculine energy originates in the spirit realm and manifests in the physical realm. So there's no such thing as spirit. It has no gender and so forth. That's idiotic. That's dissexual, homosexual insanity coming from the whites and their offspring. When you actually communicate with real ancestresses, female spirits, with feminine energy and real ancestors, masculine spirits with masculine energy, you understand the differences between masculine and feminine in the true sense, not this nonsense that people are putting out now. Because originally you have Amen and Amenet, or Inyame, Inyamewa, the Great Father and Great Mother Supreme Being. You have male and female deities, male abosom, female abosom, and you have male and female ancestresses and ancestors, and of course we have that as well. So, you can communicate with that spirit even though they left the body. That is the spirit body. And within your spirit body, there's a radiant force in the head region of your spirit body that is your soul, your divine consciousness. Infused within that spiritual entity is the blueprint of what you are to execute in the world that was given to you by Inyamewa, Inyame or Amenet, Amen, the Great Mother and Great Father, Supreme Being. So, when we look at the symbol of the crop, that is the deity in the head region regulating your spirit body. When we look at that symbolism of the Sun, which is the cross structure, diagonal cross structure, and imprinted upon that is the equilateral cross structure. What you're looking at is the Okra, the soul, the divine consciousness, regulating and governing the spirit body, the Sun. Just like your brain should be governing your body, your soul should be governing your spirit body. So that's what we're looking at. We're just showing that the Akan people, we've always had this symbolism. So when you see these symbols in the ironworks of gates and so forth, and bars on windows and different ironworks all across the country, Akan artisans were infusing Adinkra symbols like this being one of them, in these various forms of ironworks and so forth for hundreds of years. When you see these symbols in the Hoodoo tradition, and sometimes you see a circle with a cross and so forth, and circles around each point, some people assume, oh, that must be a Congo or a Bakongo cross or the Bakongo cosmogram. Sometimes it does represent that, but if Akan people were drawing these symbols, it is representative of the Okra, of the soul, the divine consciousness.
We're taking this short break to let our viewers and listeners know about our 9 archived online Hoodoo courses. We conducted a series of 9 courses online. Some of them are 4-week courses. Some of them are 6-week courses. All 9 courses are available as a special for our listeners for $50 for the entire 9-course Hoodoo set. Trustery, cosmology, ritual medicine, divination, and more. Simply go to our website, Oduyefo.com, on the Okrakonmuade page, and you can access all 9 courses. Now, back to our interview.
So in the second image, what we're showing is the cycle of life associated with these ritual practitioners. If you look at the yellow circle, that's akin to sunrise. Everything is coming forward and so forth, emerging, life is emerging and so forth. The red disc at the top is noon, the hottest time of the day, most fiery energy of the day, most vigorous output of the day and so forth. Then you see the sun setting, the white circle setting in the west and so forth, falling, setting, but then going into the underworld. Then you see the black sun deep down within the darkness and so forth. That's midnight and so forth, regeneration, coming along to sunrise. So you look at sunrise, the peak, sunset, midnight, that cycle of life. We rise with the sun, we engage in vigorous activity during the hottest time of the day and so forth, begin to cool down in the evening and begin to regenerate, and then we go into the underworld when we sleep to fully regenerate, assimilate nutrients and so forth, prepare ourselves for the resurrection. That symbol also represents the year, so that's governing every minute of the day. And spiritually we follow that energy path so we can optimize our day. During the year, it's the same thing. The sunrise is akin to the spring equinox at March 20th, March 21st. Equal nights, 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of darkness. There's fertility, there's spring, there's emerging. Produce is coming forth. That's what's taking place at spring at that evening point. Then you have the summer solstice, longest day of the year, hottest time of the year, 15 hours of sunlight, 9 hours of darkness, the red circle and so forth, fiery energy, fully expansive and so forth. That's what's happening at the summer solstice. Then you have the autumn equinox around September 22nd, September 23rd. Things are beginning to cool down. You have the fall, you have the leaves falling off the trees and so forth. You're about to go internalized. And then you have the winter solstice, the dark black sun, which is December 20th, December 21st, shortest day of the year, 9 hours of sunlight, 15 hours of darkness. That deep darkness, also a time to begin to regenerate, get rooted, get grounded, so then when the sprouts begin to come up, you're fully grounded, grabbing the nutrients from deep within the blackness, deep within the soil, to fortify yourself, edify yourself, build yourself, so when the sprouts come up and break through the surface, you're ready to move forward. So this is governing the day cycle, but also governing the year cycle. Every aspect of your life is governed by these natural cycles. In the Akan tradition, we have these 4 ritual practitioners, these 4 classes of Hoodoo or Undu people who are associated with these different cycles. Now we show these categorizations to show how the Undu people or Hoodoo people affected the lives of our people every single day, from the time we were enslaved to the time we freed ourselves and escaped and set up our own independent sovereign states like in Dismal Swamp and other places and so forth, until this very moment as we're reconstituting and recalibrating authentic Hoodoo. Odunsinfo, the yellow circle, sunrise, but also spring and so forth. So the Odunsini, we're talking about the roots, the herbs, the medicinal use of roots and herbs and so forth to build, to fortify, to heal and so forth. So when the roots and herbs and plants are growing and bursting from the soil and everything, that's an expansion, that's development, that's growth, that's fertility. The Odunsinfo or Odunsinfo, the Hoodoo-sinfo, the root doctor, giving you plants and herbs and so forth so you can heal yourself, fortify yourself, expand, and engage in ritual work, but also work with regard to the community. Now, the next phase is the full flowering. You have the red circle, summer solstice, noontime, fiery energy, expansive energy, and so forth. You have the Oduyefo or the Hoodoo-yefo. We said this is the root worker. This is the one who works the Undu meaning to become heavy with the spirit and so forth. We're talking about somebody who's a conjurer. They conjure the energy of the spirits of the deities and ancestral spirits for spirit possession, spirit communication, to lead the individual, guide the individual, but also guide the community. You have individuals when we get engaged in ritual practice and so forth, and communal rituals, the spirits come down, they possess, they lay hands to heal, they admonish, they teach, they guide, they put us back on track with divine order. When Nana Abena Aramita, Harriet Tubman, will be possessed by the spirits of the Nsamantho and Abosom, the ancestral spirits and deities, she will come out of that spirit possession and know exactly what direction to lead the people when she's escaping from enslavement and taking hundreds of people with her. She never lost a passenger, quote unquote, on the Underground Railroad because she was led by the Abosom and Nsamantho through spirit possession, spirit communication. And of course, Nana Abena Aramita, her ancestry was Akan, and that's been proved. Now you have the Odutofo. Ta in Akan means to enter, to kill, to inflict, and so forth. So just like you have the Odunsinfo at one evening point, when you're talking about growth and development and fertility in the spring and the sprouts coming forward and utilizing that medicine for expansion and healing and fortification. You can also use plant life for the contractive side. That's the expansive side. This is the contractive side. Ta means to fall. Ta means to kill, to injure, to inflict. So we utilize that medicine to kill, to injure, to inflict our enemies. We use that medicine as poison. We use it to heal, but we also use it to kill. And killing our enemies is always in harmony with divine order, and we've always understood that. So Odutofo, the killing or injuring, Undu, medicine, that's the so-called poison and so forth. And of course we poison the so-called slave master and so forth, so that we could kill them, escape from enslavement, free our people, and we use it as chemical and biological warfare now. The whites in Arab Spring have planes and tanks and bombs, and they will send these into black neighborhoods to terrorize their people and so forth. We have the capacity through Odutofo or the Hoodoo-tofo to poison millions of our enemy just from root work itself. So, and that's a major chemical and biological weapon for us. We established the process and practice of chemical and biological warfare in North America. Black people who engaged the root work process, specifically the Odutofo and others in the same position, whether they were Akan or if they were Yoruba, Igbo and so forth. Everybody had their own form of individuals who heal with medicine, but also kill as well. In Akan, of course, that's the Hoodoo-tofo or the Udunu-tofo. And that's at the setting point. The sun is falling, it's the fall, the leaves are falling off the trees and so forth, but it's also a conception point. But that's also the fall, causing the enemy to fall, Odutofo, to fall, to kill, to injure, to bring down. Now, and then you also have the Udumafo, deep within the darkness, the black circle, midnight, but also the winter solstice. Deep within the roots, deep within the soil of earth, deep within the darkness, you reach down deep in the unseen and the hidden realm and so forth to grab nutrients, just like the roots reach down deep to grab water, but also nutrients in the unseen realm. The Odumafo goes into the unseen realm, deep within the darkness, to communicate with the Abosom, the deities, the Nanonoman-samafo, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, on behalf of the querent, of the client. Go into the spirit realm, get the messages from the Abosom and samafo, so when the client can't seem to see or hear what they need to do that keeps them in track of, will place them back in harmony with divine order. Maybe they're going through something traumatic, they're kind of gripped by fear or anxiety or stress and so forth, and they can't seem to hear spiritually clearly, can't seem to perceive clearly, and they go to someone who has that capacity. We go deep down in the darkness, in the hidden realm, divine for the individual, and bring those messages back up, just like deep within the black soil with the black sun and so forth, to get the nutrients, get the water, get the healing, and then bring it back for the querent. And then the next phase of the cycle, of course, goes back to the Odunsinfo, when you become nourished, rejuvenated, edified, healed, restored, and so forth. And the cycle continues. So that's just a segment of our cosmology, language, ritual practice as a continuity of culture from our Akan civilization on the continent of Afuraitkaitnut, preserved in the spiri-genetic blood circles of our people in North America. An Akan person who's an Oduyefo or an Odumafo, Odunsinfo, Odutofo, captured in the region of the Okrakonmuade Empire hundreds of years ago, forced into the region of what is now South Carolina, North Carolina, Richmond, and so forth, placed on a plantation where they're seeking out medicine to heal the people in the compound. They seek out the Undu to heal. They seek out the Undu to kill the enemy. The whites in Arab Spring, they seek out the Undu to conjure the spirits of the Abosom and Odumafo. They seek out the Undu for divination. We never stop practicing our culture. We never stop referring to ourselves as Hoodoo people. Hoodoo-yefo, Hoodoo-mafo, Hoodoo-sinfo, Hoodoo-tofo, and so forth. So when you talk about hoodoo, when you hear about individuals with big websites and writing books and doing documentaries and talking about the culture in a form or a facet where they position themselves as experts on the culture and so forth, you understand that if they don't understand that Akan religion is the Hoodoo religion, they don't know anything about the Hoodoo religion. And this is just one small example of that. And in the coming episodes, we're going to go into great detail to prove this conclusively. So, once again, Yerase, we thank you for supporting the podcast. Of course, use our hashtag HoodooCast. Join our Patreon group, the Hoodoo-cast Patreon group, for exclusive content, early video releases, our documentary films, access to our 38 online courses, and more. So once again, Yerase, we thank you for supporting the work, and Yebeshia Bio, we will meet again. That's it.
Yerase, we thank you for tuning in to our podcast. See our website at hoodoo-cast.com to download our 31 books and access our 38 online courses. See our Hoodoo-cast Patreon community for all exclusive content, and also use our Hoodoo-cast hashtag on all social media platforms. Yebeshia.